Liz Cheney tweeting her reaction to Donald Trump's win just moments ago. Here's what she says, quote, "Our nation's democratic system functioned last night, and we have a new president-elect. All Americans are bound, whether we like the outcome or not, to accept the results of our elections. We now have a special responsibility as citizens of the greatest nation on earth to do everything we can to support and defend our Constitution, preserve the rule of law, and ensure that our institutions hold over these coming 4 years. Citizens across this country, our courts, members of the press, and those serving in our federal, state, and local governments must now be the guardrails of democracy." So, of course, Liz Cheney had devoted herself to preventing Donald Trump from ever entering the White House again. But the Never Trump movement inside the Republican Party, honestly, not borne out here today.
Bang up job. I mean, this Never Trump whole complex that grew over the last several years, nothing has ever failed as hard in politics as this. The Lincoln Project, all these people that built millions upon millions upon millions of dollars from Democratic donors, and all the eggs that was put in this basket. The split was amazing. Trump got like 94% of Republicans. I don't think they accomplished anything except probably build a bunch of beach houses. That's about what they did. Republicans being lectured to, condescended to, browbeaten by all these folks over the last... I mean, look, at some juncture, it's okay if we have different opinions about the election. You don't have to beat people to death over it. And the more you do that, the more it drives people away. Total failure.
So I think I think it's important to level set that the statement that Liz Cheney is making in the Trump era is an important one. Now, you can argue that politically the Never Trump effort failed.
And actually, let me pause you for one second, because there is a difference between Donald Trump and the Lincoln Project and what happened with Liz Cheney, which was a break that occurred after January 6th.
Yes. Yeah. And you can't, I mean, Scott, you can't pretend that Donald Trump has not spent a lot of his time and energy trying to convince the American people that the electoral system in this country is rigged. And that's before you even get to January 6th. So I'm gonna give you the political ramification. I'm gonna let you have that argument. It is incredibly important for people to say our systems will hold, our institutions will hold, our elections are free and fair. Even if we don't like the outcome, we have to abide by them. And you cannot pretend in the Donald Trump era that that's not an important thing to say.
I was happy to say these things before we knew the outcome of the election. I will just point out in our own exit polling on the issue of democracy, 73% of the people said they thought democracy was threatened, and they split evenly between the two campaigns, 49 to 49. And so,
well, that's probably because Donald Trump spent a lot of time telling a lot of people not to trust our democracy,
Yeah. Which goes to, I hear you and Republicans making the argument that Trump won on this kind of like fundamentally unifying message. I would sincerely hope that he uses this moment to remind people, reassure people that our elections are free and fair in this country. He wields an enormous amount of power. He has a loyal following. I'm not saying I believe that he will, unfortunately. But he wields an enormous amount of influence, and he should use it for good.
But I don't think he will.
I doubt he will, unfortunately.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't even hear you over there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Sorry, Karen.
That's okay. No, unfortunately, just as his previous term, I don't think that he will. I think we already have the evidence that he won't. And I think he just ran a very divisive campaign, and he ran it in an environment where, I think one of the things we will be looking at, just as after 2016, we were looking at the resources that were saying that it was about, cultural anxiety and people feeling anxious about their place in a changing world. We got to look at what the gender divide really means in this country. And that's not by exit polls. I'm not talking about the surface, but there is something else that is happening in this country that Donald Trump, I think, because he's very good at this, he tapped into it with men in the I hear you, I see you. I think some of it is, part of the aftermath of the Me Too movement, where there were a lot of men who felt like there just wasn't a place for them, like they maybe weren't Harvey Weinstein, but they felt like, so what is appropriate? And I think they did feel kind of left out. So I think there are two levels of this, right? I think Donald Trump is going to continue to be very divisive. I think Liz Cheney's comment is incredibly important because the rule of law will matter. And I think part of what she's saying is somebody, we the people, are going to have to keep him in check. And I think there are other currents going on in the country that certainly Democrats would ignore at our peril.
So, like we said, I think, when you see movement in as many places as we saw, it's something structural. People are saying they were unhappy with the way things were going in the country, economically, the border, crime. They want Trump to fix it. They were also saying whether you're talking about focus groups or reporters out talking to people, there were a significant number of voters who would say, when hearing the most extreme things Trump is talking about, we got through the first term and none of these things happened. So 11% of voters who said Trump was too extreme voted for him. That is the bet they are making. So we're going to find out. Is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. going to be in control of public health and challenging vaccine mandates in the states? Donald Trump said in an interview with Time magazine that he believes he has the right to fire a U.S. attorney who will not start an investigation of someone he wants to be investigated, whether there's any evidence or not. Mass deportation. All of these things, did he mean them? And if he does them, will the voters who said, I'm annoyed that gas and groceries are so much, stay on board? We may or may not find out.
That's my point, and that's what I was attempting to piggyback on what Kate was talking about, because what did they say? Past is prologue, right? And this man is 78 years old. And I know that one of the reasons this election went the way that it did is because people on this referendum on Joe Biden were more fond of the Trump years on Election Day than they were of their current situation, right? That's kind of the larger picture. But we have a colloquialism. It's FAFO. I'm going to let people Google that, right? And you're going to find out in the first 6 months of what that chaos was. For us on TV, it was like drinking out of a fire hose. It was foreign policy via tweet, right? It was what is the news story of the day. They had so many different press secretaries and so many different cabinet secretaries, and they were just running through and churning through, and we forgot what that chaos was.
The number of steps I got on Capitol Hill every day trying to cover the Trump administration was thousands.
we beat January 6th to a pulp, rightfully so. But
it wasn't just men who voted for the former president. Ron went over all of the exit results. He did incredibly well with a lot of women, a lot of people of color. And people say, he ran on this dark, bleak message. Well, you know what? For a lot of people, the country is dark and bleak. We're in New York. I went to Target yesterday with my wife. And every darn thing, lotion, everything you could think of, locked up behind doors. Or someone has to come and unlock the key for you to grab a darn thing of deodorant. And that's normal in America. And so when people say, well, crime is not a problem, these things are locked up because theft. So crime is a problem. So Donald Trump's case about the issues in this country are very accurate for a whole lot of regular people out there. That's why he got the support he received. Yeah.
So, Scott, let me ask you a question, because we started this conversation with Liz Cheney talking about, okay, this is what's important for people to focus on in the second Trump administration. Ron raised the question, okay, is Donald Trump going to do some of these things that he said that he did that could potentially alienate some of those voters, right, who they voted for him anyway, even though they think he's too extreme because they're upset about this. This shows that there's an opportunity for Democrats in the future and that Republicans will have to work, right, to hold on to this, right? They'll have to govern in a way that if you want to continue that mandate, right? If you want to keep that mandate together in the next election. Does Donald Trump care about what Republicans are going to want to try to keep that in power going forward, considering that this is going to be his last administration? Is he going to be thinking about that as he governs the country?
I think he's only going to care about what the people who just elected him asked him to do. This is a mandate. The economic program, the immigration program, the foreign policy program, everything he laid out, nobody's forgotten what Donald Trump did as president. And certainly everybody heard loud and clear what he was running on in this election. And he won a resounding victory. So my, rudimentary and humble political advice would be just do what you said you were going to do, and you're going to have a very successful term because that's what the people asked for.
We got what we deserve.